Yo, get in, chop.
I'm a bit self-aware, sometimes it's fucked up, but life is gonna lie, so I ain't gonna slow up. I'm on a mission to change the face of mental health, kicking knowledge to my people, cause you know that health is wealth. It's your lucky day, cause you tuned into the greatest. Out here striving to survive, sometimes we fake it till we make it. If your mental health is slipping, then please don't touch that dial, go and grab.
Yo, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Tree the LPC, and thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Self-Aware and Effed Up podcast. So today I'm going to go deeper into my personal series about my self-aware and fucked up journey. And for those that have been watching the show, of course, we're in season 4 now, but I've told over the last several seasons about my personal experience of dealing with mental health issues and also being a counselor that is navigating through that while also helping her clients. And so for many of you guys that have been watching the show, you know that I deal with depression, specifically mood disorder depression, but I also deal with something called seasonal affective disorder. So if you guys never heard the term seasonal affective disorder, it is something that we call it SAD, S-A-D, but it is something that impacts a lot of people across the world. The name itself focuses more so on the depression side of things because it's connected to how when we change seasons, it impacts our mood, it impacts our energy, it impacts how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about what's going on. So if you find yourself feeling heavier during those months, if you find yourself as soon as it gets a little nippy outside, you start to kind of find yourself having low energy, wanting to sleep all the time, feeling fatigued, not wanting to go out and do social things, you may be dealing with SAD. And so I want to make sure that everybody just is aware of what that looks like. So for me, I've dealt with depression probably since at least middle school. I can't remember if I felt super, super sad before middle school, but I do remember like as a kid singing this little stupid ass song, "Nobody Loves Me, I Can't Understand It." I sung this song. I was telling my therapist about it a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, this is the saddest shit I've ever heard in my life. And the people around me didn't think there was something wrong with this shit. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, a couple of people in my life, they failed me at that particular time in my life. But I do recognize some of those signs of depression that were there early on. But when it comes to seasonal affective, this does not mean that you have an actual diagnosis of depression. It just means that you change when the seasons change. And so when we get a lack of sunlight, when we start to have those shifts, it impacts how our brain and our body responds to what is going on in the world around us. A main part of that is sometimes it creates a vitamin D deficiency. And that happens a lot for people who don't get out of the house like myself. So I work from home. And so because I work from home, I see clients from home. I rarely go outside and get sun. And so I actually use a light on my desk every morning. I will use it during my morning sessions to help me get or simulate some of that vitamin D kind of thing from the sun, even though I'm not really getting actual sunlight. And so with those changes, I have to be very careful about how I take care of myself. I have to make sure that I'm eating healthy. I have to make sure that I'm getting enough sleep, but not too much sleep. And so it's something that really starts to weigh on me every year. And I usually notice it because it's usually starting late August that I just really don't want to do anything. I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to be bothered. And I do the exact opposite of that because I don't want to be bothered. And I recognize that it's seasonal affective. I end up pushing myself to go out more and more. And I end up overcommitting myself, unfortunately. And so that's what I'm having to deal with now is like I've overcommitted myself. And now I'm starting to feel fatigue about things that have not even happened. So if you find yourself going through things like that, especially seasonal affective disorder, you may notice that you start to feel not just a low mood, but just kind of like a dull sadness, not anything super crazy, suicidal or anything like that. But you may start to feel like, I don't really feel like myself. And I feel like once I start noticing that, that's usually a sign that I need to start doing some things differently. And so when you experience those symptoms of sad, it can lead to feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. It also can include you losing interest in doing normal things that you would enjoy doing. So, for example, I love going to concerts. I love being around people. I love being able to do those things. But this time of year, it takes a lot more energy for me to be able to do those things. So, I just want you guys to know, SAD can show up during the winter months, but it can also show up during the summer and spring months. So you just have to be very clear about how your body responds to it. Sometimes my seasonal affective is worse in the spring than it is in the fall. And I think it's because for me, I anticipate it in the fall. I anticipate, oh, it's going to get cold. I don't like cold. I like the fact that my birthday is during the cold months, but I don't like cold. And so I'm feeling that it's coming and I'm kind of preparing for it mentally. But in the spring, that's a good time. Flowers are blooming, the birds are chirping, and you're supposed to feel good. And then when you start to feel yourself not feeling so good, then it can kind of mind fuck you a bit. So if you guys notice yourself feeling any of that, don't brush it off. Don't look like, oh, well, it's nothing. Do something. Get some help, get some support if you feel like you are dealing with that. Another sign is like trouble concentrating. Like I am so damn productive some months. And then there are other months where it's like, I don't want to get shit done. Fuck this job. Fuck this podcast. Fuck everything because I don't want to deal with it. So if you've ever dealt with SAD, I definitely would encourage you to really find out what your coping skills are and what things can you do for yourself in order for you to feel like you are yourself again. A good part of that can be going to hang out with friends. Another part of that can be getting out just to get some suns, going and standing barefoot outside to just kind of ground yourself with the earth. But you definitely have to find ways to be able to connect. When I first discovered that I had depression, I think it just mentally messed with me because I didn't understand what was happening. When I got to college, I think that is when my life really started to change because I wasn't in the house that I grew up anymore. I wasn't in that space where I felt like I had to show up or be a certain way. I went to this new space. People didn't know me there. There were no expectations on me. I just showed up and I did what I needed to do. But being in college and being away from home, it really forced me to challenge myself. And what I really found out is that I didn't like myself that much. I found out that I didn't really like the version of me that it was in high school. And so I went into this space of trying to reinvent myself. And I know a lot of people do that in college, but for me, it was just very difficult because doing that required me to get in contact with my actual feelings. It required me to go deep and it required me to really assess how I felt. And what I discovered was that I was sad. I discovered that there were so many things that had happened in my life that I had learned to just shut off. I had learned just cry or just pray. And I stopped crying at one point. I remember, I want to say from like maybe age 13 until 18, I don't really think I cried at all outside of, someone passing away or going through, I might have cried when I got a bad grade or something or whatever, but I really didn't connect with my emotions. And when I got to college, I had all of this time because in high school, it was, okay, you go to school all day. Okay, you get home. Okay, you go to work. And then you rinse and repeat this thing. You might have a day off. Like I think I had 2 days off a week where I wasn't working or in school. So, and I think that was really just Sunday. And I think I was off on Wednesday. So it was a lot of kind of not having enough time between school, work, trying to get homework done, projects and stuff. So I didn't have a lot of time to really think or assess my emotions. But when I got to college, I had all of this time because my classes were early in the morning and then go get lunch. Then I was free for the rest of the day. I didn't work until my junior year, but my freshman year, I had a lot of free time. And so that forced me to really start to think about my life. And I didn't like a lot of what I had going on. And so I really had to go inward. I didn't have therapy in my college years because one, even though I knew I wanted to go to do school to do therapy that freshman year, I just didn't know if I would be able to connect with someone in that type of setting because I didn't trust people. And so much had built up over the years that I really started to lose myself. And once I started to find myself, it was like the mask had come off. And so it was a lot. There's a lot to deal with that. And I think as I got older, especially graduating college, I think that's when the depression really, really set in, because now not only have I graduated from school and accomplished this great thing, now my life is supposed to look great. And I can barely afford to pay my bills. I can barely afford to pay my car note. I end up having to let my car go back and get my car repossessed because I did not realize what it took to actually run a household. I didn't know what it was like to have an apartment and have to pay these bills every single fucking month. No one prepared me for that shit. And so now I'm not depressed because of a chemical imbalance. Now I'm depressed because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with my life right now. I don't know how to navigate through life. And I'm seeing people around me that are doing well. They're able to pay their bills. And I'm moving from one city to the other, hoping to be able to afford to live a certain type of life. I went hungry many times. Shout out to a couple of my friends during that era of my life that were really the ones that were like, you know what, we cooking, come over for dinner today, or we got this going on. Like I remember truly like going to get a McChicken sandwich back when they were actually $1 and having to split one of the bitches and eat one for lunch and one for dinner because I was so damn broke that I could not afford to take care of myself. And so it was during those moments where they were, building moments, but it was me realizing that I was fucking clueless when it comes to how to actually navigate life. And so I went through a lot of seasons when it comes to my depression. I learned to connect with the God within me and the Holy Spirit within me. And that helped me, but I also was fighting other demons. And so all of that being said, my depression has ebbed and flowed a lot throughout life. And it wasn't until I want to say moving back to LaGrange that really my depression went into high gear. I ended up in this very traumatic relationship, which I'll tell you guys about on an upcoming episode. But I went through a really traumatic time where I lost my grandmother. I moved back to LaGrange, and now I'm isolated from my family and friends because I'm in this very abusive relationship. And that kind of led to a deeper depression because now I got a trauma bond with this person. And now I don't know how to get free. And so I ended up spending 3 years in a relationship depressed as fuck because I was with this person who was cheating on me. I was with this person who was out there just doing whatever, treating me like shit emotionally. And it just turned into this big thing where I could not get to a good place because I was constantly trying to please someone that I could have never pleased. And so that led me into a whole nother depression. And so I really didn't get free from depression until I was 27 years old. And it was something about walking away from that relationship finally after 3 years and getting my life started, getting an apartment again, getting back out there. It started to give me back my autonomy. And once I got my autonomy back, that shifted how I dealt with the world. That shifted how I saw myself because I started to see myself as someone who was capable. I started to see myself as someone who could have what she says she desires. And so when those changes were occurring in my life, that is when I started to really tap into the fact that I no longer wanted to just mark days off on a calendar where I was having a bad day and it'd be okay for me to go a month having a bad month or having a bad year. I decided I wanted to take control of my depression at that point in my life. And so I was able to finally do that when I turned 27. That's when I started truly manifesting this model that I lived my life by: live, laugh, love. Now, does that mean that was the last time I dealt with depression? Absolutely not. I went through a really rough season in 2013 where I had a really, really bad depressive episode. And then my last major depressive episode was in 2016 when I went through a rough breakup. So a lot of my depression, if you really look at it, I don't think that hormonally there's an imbalance. I think that circumstances, my life circumstances, have led to periods of depression. And I think the other part of it is that seasonal affective disorder. And I think sometimes we train ourselves or we think ourselves into a bad mood. And so for me, I have to sometimes check myself. I have to be like, bitch, are you really depressed right now? Or are you just upset, or are you just frustrated with something that's going on? So I have to check myself. I can't become the depression. I have to actually sit back and assess, am I actually feeling bad, or am I making myself feel bad? And that's, again, if you have a hormonal imbalance to your depression, that is a different thing from what I'm saying. Because if you are chemically imbalanced and you need something like a Zoloft or Wellbutrin or a psychotropic medication in order to help with your depression, that's cool. Do what you got to do. I'm saying for me, I feel like more of mine is circumstances. I learned to deal with depression. I learned to live with it without having to take medication for it. Now, anxiety, that's a whole nother topic for a different day. But my anxiety, yeah, that is here, but it's also definitely, I'm naturally predisposed to be more anxious. It's genetic. My mom is very anxious, and I don't think my dad was super anxious. I don't know. He was cool as a fan, but I know that for me, that part of it is very real. And I do take medication for it because there are times where I don't have control. But with the depression, I feel like there's always something that I can do to combat my depression. So when it comes to like my self-aware and fucked upness in that, I think it's always important for me to just kind of just assess, where am I? Because sometimes when it's seasonal affective disorder coming in, I know that it's not internal. I know that it's external. It's something that is shifting me and causing me to feel this way. And it's something that if I give it a day or a week or so, I can usually come out of it because I recognize what it is. But sometimes when we get in that funk, we don't know. And so we need the language to be able to put to what we're experiencing. And so if you are like me, if you dealt with depression or you dealt with seasonal affective disorder, that means you have to put some coping skills in place. You have to figure out what things can help me get to a better feeling space. That's something that I do with all my clients. Every time I have a new client come in, I will usually give them what we call a self-care assessment, because I want to see how well are they actually balancing taking care of themselves. Because when it comes to depression and anxiety, and again, this is outside of you being chemically mood related depression. When I'm talking about life circumstances where you're feeling sad and you get stuck in a routine of depression, in those cases, you have to have coping skills. You have to have coping skills in both cases, but I don't want to give you the indication that just because you do coping skills that you won't ever feel depressed, because that's not true. I do coping skills all the time. I still be very depressed at times. I feel very depressed at times. So you just want to make sure that you are aware of your body, that you know your signs, identifying that. And if you are not able to manage your depression or your seasonal affective disorder on your own, then you do need to seek treatment. Like, for y'all know me, I got therapists, plural, because I know that when I get low, I have to have somebody to check in with. So you make sure that if you need things like light therapy, where you're getting the sun from unnatural sources, or if it's going to see a therapist, if you need to talk through things, like, go do what you need to do to take care of yourself. There is no shame in taking medication. I am prescribed medication that I don't take, but I got it in case I want to take it, because I don't ever want to be in a position where I feel like I can't move forward or I'm stuck from being able to actually live as freely as I desire to live, because I refuse to let depression take my life. I refuse to let depression ruin and run my life. It cannot control me. I have to be in control. I can tell you guys right now, I feel like shit right now. but I refuse to let any just part of me that feels a little bit down keep me from continuing this mission. And it can be hard at times, but I refuse to allow that. So I had to push through the day. And sometimes you may have to push through. I'm not saying push through indefinitely, but sometimes you have to step up and you have to push through those feelings in order to really assess, where am I? So I want to make sure you guys take care of yourself. Make sure you guys are doing things to help get you to the best possible place. Because when you take care of your mental health, it helps with your physical health. It helps with how you think. It helps with how you feel. All of those things work together in our body. So I hope you guys have enjoyed these tips that I've given you guys today. I will continue this series of exploring my own personal journey in order to help you guys, because as I tell you guys all the time, self-aware and fucked up is who I am. It is a part of me. I am very self-aware of all of the things, but that I don't always do what needs to be done. But I want you guys to do as I say, not as I do, and make sure that you guys take care of yourselves. So be sure to follow me, Tree the LPC, on all social media platforms under the handle Tree the LPC. And until next time, be safe, be well, and make sure that you take care of your mental health.